Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is a very exciting one for me, something that's very close to my heart actually, and a video I've been wanting to make for months. I would say probably more than even half a year at this point. And ultimately, my desire to start scripting this video, coming up with ideas for this video started all the way back when I watched Jupiter's Legacy for the first time. And if you want, you can actually watch my review for that by clicking on the little button that just appeared now. But ever since I watched Jupiter's Legacy, I couldn't help but feeling that there was this massive similarity between the Utopian and Superman. And of course, from surface level, you can see exactly why I came up with that connection. But what stood out to me most about these characters and why I love both of them so much, but in different ways, is their moral compass. And that's actually what I'm going to break down in this video, because these are two characters that at face value are so incredibly similar, but they have these massive differences. And I'm not talking about their power scaling. I'm not looking at the superficial stuff like that. In this video, what I'm going to be looking at is their moral compass, where they got their moral center from, and how they go about pursuing that moral center. So what's the biggest differences between Superman and the Utopian? I believe it was the relationships that they had with their fathers.
Because without the encouragement of your father, man, the world is a dismal place. It's very difficult to be a courageous person unless you have your father in body and spirit behind you. It's very demoralizing.
So if we look at the Utopian, what do we know about his relationship with his father? Well, it ended in an incredibly gruesome note. So we go through this entire series where we see Sheldon's relationship with his father. And at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway we get from their relationship was how it ended, with Sheldon watching his dad throw himself off a roof, which isn't a very positive message or farewell you want to give to your son. And I think that relationship, that sudden shift in power and hierarchy within Sheldon's own mind, kind of stunted his growth and development as a character. And we see that moving throughout the whole series. So what I think is so great about the Utopian, especially in the series, is we get those moments of self-doubt where he wants to do what he believes is right. And he's very self-righteous in his cause, and he believes in his cause, and he understands that, and he believes that, you know, they aren't the judge, jury, and executioner. They're there just to help people and save people. But he wants humanity to be able to carry itself. That's something that Sheldon the Utopian keeps very close to his heart. But we witness in the series that he actually goes to therapy. And he has this internal struggle with morality. He himself doesn't understand what goodness is, what's right, what's moral. And I think a big part of that comes from his relationship with his father, which has been shattered. But on the flip side, if we look at Superman, we see not just one great father role model in Jonathan Kent, but we also see a great father figure in Jor-El. So from a chronological timeline, let's just look at Superman's life. He never truly knows his father on Krypton. He never truly knows Jor-El, but Jor-El was a leader of his people, and he sacrificed himself to save Kal-El, Clark Kent. Then Kal-El, ends up on Earth. He gets brought in by the Kents, and he's raised as their own son. And the Kents love him, and they instill moral values in him. And we can see Jonathan Kent in all his renditions across all media is just such a morally central man. And he loves his son with all his heart. And there's a scene in Secret Origin that always stands out to me. It's where Clark's spaceship opens up and these two figures just burst out of the spaceship. And at this point, Jonathan Kent knows that his son is invincible, yet still tries to shield him and protect him. That is a man who loves his son and wants the best for his son. And we see this continue throughout all depictions of Jonathan Kent in Superman media. If we even look at Smallville, the series, Jonathan Kent is willing to get superpowers just to get his son back. And even the more controversial depictions of Jonathan Kent still portray him as a man who loves his son. If we look at Man of Steel with Kevin Costner, this was arguably the most controversial depiction of Jonathan Kent, and the entire scene with the tornado has been ripped to shreds on social media and on YouTube specifically. But if you actually look at what the scene stands for, which is that Jonathan Kent believes that his son isn't ready yet and would rather sacrifice himself knowing that his son will one day be ready and be able to take that responsibility onto his shoulders. For me, that just perfectly illustrates what a loving father he was for his son. And then, of course, we get Jor-El then, bringing Superman up and actually training him to be the superhero he needs to be. And again, we see that across all different depictions of Superman media. And I think one of my favorite depictions of Jor-El has to be the Marlon Brando depiction in Superman the movie released in 1978, where these famous lines are speaking, that the father becomes the son and the son becomes the father, basically meaning that I'm going to instill my moral center into you and you're going to become like me in my image. And there's, of course, a lot of biblical connotations in there as well. But what we can look at is just we get these two perfectly moral characters that are investing their entire lives into producing this boy who will become a man to lead the world. And I think that's what's so great about the Utopian and about Superman, is that they show us the roles that men and fathers have on boys in society today.
Provider, and to be a model, a demonstration of what it is to be a man, and how a man needs to be, how a man shows up, not just what a man does.
I believe without a doubt that there is a massive correlation between single parent households, especially single mother households, and unfortunately people that go into a life of crime. Because boys, and in fact just children in general, require a strong role model, a strong male role model in their life. And I don't think that's in dispute at all. And if you want, we can take this parallel between the Utopian and Superman and their relationships with their fathers, we can take that down to the next generation. I want you to think about the relationship that they have with their sons. Because the truth of the matter is they are stark contrasts, these two different stories. In fact, if we look at Superman, and I think this is absolutely great, John Kent now holds the title of Superman. That's what this entire comic is about. This first issue is about Jonathan Kent having to live up to the legacy of his father and trying to be a hero that the world can believe in. That's what this whole issue is about, which I think is amazing. And then on the flip side, if we look at Brandon, Sheldon's son, this is a man who grows up to despise his father. And I think it's great to see how this generational trauma moves on and continues to impact fathers and sons for generations. If we look at Superman Reborn Part 4, ultimately the entire conflict is resolved because John loves his father so much. And it's his love that is able to bring Superman back and ultimately win the day. And it's this young kid here who ends up growing to be Superman and proudly wearing his father's emblem on his chest. We get a son who looks up to his father because his father was raised by two men who loved him. On the flip side, we get Brandon, who in one of the most haunting images I've ever seen in a comic book or graphic novel, murders his father. Imagine the type of relationship you have to have with your father to be willing to not just murder him, but literally laser his eyes out of his skull. And this scene honestly broke my heart when I read it for the first time.
That's the difference. You see, your presence in their lives gives them validation. They ain't got to find it in the streets.
So I know I've been all over the place with this video so far. When I script stuff, I usually just leave bullet points. And so now I'm kind of just jumping from bullet point to bullet point to bullet point. But I just really want to illustrate this one simple fact that a father's love for his son is generational. And when a father loves a son and tries to instill values and morals into him, he's able to raise his son up. So I've got a great relationship with my father. I love him so much. He's the biggest role model in my life. There's two messages he's always instilled into me. The first one, of course, being never give up. And that's a mantra I carry on with my life daily. And you'll hear my brother say that as well. That is something that we carry almost as like a torch for the Janssens household. But there's another thing that really stood out to me, and he's only ever said this a few times, but it's probably impacted me deeper than anything else. And he told me, he's like, Caleb, I started here and I'm here now, but I don't want you to start here. I want you to learn from my mistakes, and I want you to start here so that you can get here, so that one day your son doesn't start down here, your son starts here and he can move up here. And so every generation we have, you know, another son that is able to instill the same values that his father instilled into him and move the family forward. And I think that's perfectly illustrated through Clark Kent raising up Jonathan Kent to be the new Superman. And I think this generational love between a father and son works both ways. A great example of a son's love redeeming his father is actually Invincible. Now, I haven't read the full comic line yet. I've only just gotten to about where season 1 ends in the series, but we all know that scene at the end of Invincible where ultimately Mark is just like, you know, after 500 years, Dad, I'd still have you. And we get that scene where Omni-Man realizes what he's done. He understands that he truly loves Mark and he can't stand for what he's just done, because he understands that he has a son who he hasn't brought up right.
The power of a father and its influence upon a child is tremendous.
So yes, guys, I know this was a video that was all over the place. Ultimately, I just wanted to illustrate what I believe is a very serious issue that we are facing in the world today, and that is the relationship, the degrading of the relationship between a father and a son, because ultimately we need more strong relationships between fathers and sons, especially in today's society. And picking up on the parallels, or the complete perpendiculars rather, of the relationships between Superman and the Utopian with their fathers and with their sons, I think is a message that a lot of us should actually take to heart, because we can use, what's so great about comic books and films in general is that we can use them as ways to learn about everyday life. We can use them as character studies. And I think that this is a great way to learn about the impact that parents have on their children. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys are the best. You are awesome. And I hope to see you guys again in another video. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. It really does mean the world to me. For those of you that are unaware, I've recently partnered up with Zapcast, and I'm currently hosting 2 of their shows, the ABCs of Content Creation and the Weekly Fundamentals. So if you are at all interested, jump across to their socials and check them out.